So let's talk about the strongly typed objects within the order system. So here I have a line item object, and if I wanted to interact with this, I could do something like this. I could do item dot, and then I can get a description, a display name of the line item I've just added into the basket. I can get its other properties in here as well. So this is known as the dotted notation. Everything I want to do, it has a property associated, and I can get those values from that. But Commerce Server also has the concept of weekly type. And this weekly type can be accessed by providing a string key name through an indexer value through the item. So here I have the item object, and I'm going ahead and put some X's here for the key name, and I'm going to go ahead and assign a value to it. Okay, so now when I do this, the line item can be accessed based on this property by accessing its properties this way. So now I can go ahead and retrieve the XXX value to do something with it, because this is a string, so we can make it into a string. If this was an object, then I can cast that back into the object it is. So just to show you how this really works, let's go ahead and save this and then look at a sample of how this really works. So let's go ahead and open up our starter site, or I should say our C# site. So here we got our C# site up and running. Let's go ahead and quickly log in so we can add something to our basket. Okay, so now if I add this to basket, I will have the item added, as well as I'll be creating this indexer value of XXX, and then add this value inside of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this product. Okay, so now let's go ahead and place this. We'll continue choosing the shipping and our home address. And so and put a name for our card. Keep everything as is, update the billing, and make a purchase. So we made the purchase. Now what happened to that column that we created as part of the line item? Well, because it's not a dotted notation, what happens is that Commerce Server will store this in a binary format in a column called Marshall Data. So if we go to our database under the C# site transactions and open up all of the tables that we have, pretty much all of the tables we look into, there will be some columns. In these columns, one of them will have this Marshall Data column. And notice that this is a binary, and it can hold these indexer values for us. So if we look at the line items, and if I open this table, and if we go look back towards the end, and notice we have the Marshall Data, but you can't see what's inside of this Marshall Data. So let's go ahead and close this and open up our Customer Order Manager. Okay, so we've got our Customer Order Manager opened up. Let's go down to search for purchase orders, and I'll just look for wildcard. And let's go ahead and open up our line item. So here we have our line item, and if we open this up, here's all of the strongly typed. And if we go to the advanced section, notice now we have the weekly type that we can see. Now where is this stored in the database is going to be in that binary field that we talked about in the Marshall Data. So that's where the data is held, and you can pretty much do this with any of the Commerce Server objects by storing weekly type information. The only bad part with this is that you can't search for weekly types. because it's stored in the Marshall data. Well, what if you wanted to have this weekly type be mapped to a field in the database? And we can go ahead and do that. So what we do is we'll go ahead and extend the line items table. So we'll go into our line items table and go ahead and go to design. Let's go to the bottom, and here we'll go ahead and create our XXX, and let's keep this as nvarchar 50 and keep it null. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. So now that we did this, we need to tell the order mappings how to map this. So remember earlier on we talked about if we go under the orders node, we have these mapping files. One is for the pipeline mapping and one is the storage mapping file. So this one is the order object mapping.xml. So we'll go into the order object mapping.xml and we'll go ahead and find our line item table here. And we'll just copy this column here. And paste that. So we'll go ahead and name this XXX. And its data type is nvarchar. Is it nullable? Yes. And we need to also add one more, the precision. And we say that was 50. Okay. So once we added this new column here, let's see, I believe we have 4 X's here. Let's take a look, make sure. Yep. So now that that column has been set here, so next we need to go ahead and add a weekly type to the class definition. So let's go to our line item. Here we go. Let's copy this. So we said this was XXX. Now this is not going to be a property. It's going to be a weekly type property, and the name is XXX. So next we need to go ahead and set the mapping between the class and the table. Let's go find our line item table. There we go. So let's copy this. So now that we added this, the next thing we have to do is run the order mapping.exe. The order mapping.exe is responsible for properly storing this information from the weekly type to our column and having the store procedures to also retrieve this. So if we go back to where Commerce Server is installed, under program files, Commerce Server 2007, and if we go under the SDK folder, or actually under the tools folder, here we have the order object mapping.exe. Generally what I like to do is I like to create a temp table, and I like to have all of my web config and all of the mapping files in here. So let's just go ahead and clean some of this stuff up. Okay, and let's go ahead and copy over our web config. So we'll go to our C# site. So we're going to bring our web config here. And also we're going to bring our mapping files. Okay. And next we're going to go to a command prompt. And let's copy the path. Okay, and let's run the order mapping.exe. If we run it with the parameter, notice that we have some values that we need to pass it. So the first thing we're going to pass it is the web config. So if we pass it the web config, and then it's going to create us a default order storage.sql file for us. So now it's going to go ahead and validate our mapping. If the mapping was validated correctly, we're going to have this order storage.sql. So let's go ahead and open up this order storage.sql. And make sure we're pointing to our C# transactions database. So notice that now it's got all the store procedures and all the permissions. So if we search this for our column, and there we have our column there. So now it's going to become part of the select statement to get read from the database. So let's go ahead and execute this. So that was successful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save my web config so that the application cycle is recycled, and we'll go ahead and refresh our home page again. Okay. And let's go ahead and buy a product. Okay, set our address, continue, set our name for our credit card, and let's go ahead and make the purchase. Okay. So now if we go back to our line item table, and notice now that I have my values populated in my column. Also, if we go into our customer order manager, do another wild search. So the reason I wasn't able to open this, remember we said that everything has to be in sync, meaning that the mapping files that I have, and that should also exist as part of the web services. So let's actually go find our web services. So we have our orders web services here, and let's paste these and overwrite the ones we've got. Okay, let's go ahead and open our web config and just save it so we can recycle that application pool. And then just go ahead and refresh this. Okay, so we refresh that. Let's go to our orders. Let's just search for purchase order. So now we should be able to open up our product. So this product was placed at 651. So this must be it. Let's open this up. And notice that now I can open this up and I can go look at the properties that I have here. So what you've learned so far is how to create index values as part of your line item, and then have this information either saved as a weakly type or as a strongly typed in the database. Okay, so